thank you very much for turning out. I'm not sitting in the throne room at Windsor Castle. I'm actually cabinet office in the historic Treasury boardroom.
Wow.
My own office is slightly smaller. But I'm very grateful for you turning out, because a really key theme of the update to our veteran strategy that we will announce next week is veterans employability, and the work that people like you do is absolutely critical to that. And I'm very enthusiastic about promoting the fact that, as we all know, and I've just said this in the House of Commons this morning, we all know that veterans make magnificent employees, and in simple terms, military service gives you really brilliant, meaningful skills for life. And it's sometimes frustrating to see veterans portrayed as people who are broken by military service rather than enhanced by military service, and present a huge range of opportunities for military service. So thanks for turning out. I'm all ears.
Thank you for extending that welcome. I thought what we would do first of all is just share more of what BuildForce do from our team at Employers and our veterans, and then we'd be honoured to hear more about your role as Minister, and for you to share some insights around the strategy action plan. So very quickly, in terms of who we are, we formed 11 years ago. 5 of us who aimed squarely at encouraging the construction industry to employ more veterans. Now, this is before the days of social value and CSR. As an industry, we had a skills diversity and labour shortage, and we sought to showcase the incredible talents and worth of our veterans in addressing our industry needs. Now, as you know, our veterans receive the most sophisticated training and leadership experience available. And I think, in the words of Lord Ashcroft, the armed forces offer what amounts to Britain's biggest and best apprenticeship scheme. So during our professional careers in industry, we championed our veterans, and BuildForce was born. So to better understand our kick, if I could ask Caroline Logan, our programme director, to share with us some joys and highlights of her role.
Of course. Good morning, everyone. So I am, if you like, the boots on the ground. I'm the main point of contact for our military personnel and our employers, connecting the two and building on those industry relationships. I'm really passionate about people, and it's been a great joy for me to support so many of our service leavers and veterans into the sector. And we continue that relationship once they're employment, because they come back to the programme as a mentor and an employer, so they really don't escape. So I have been with BuildForce from the early days, 2016, and have been delighted to watch and of course be part of its growth. Our alliance of industry partners is now over 250 strong, and we have a mentor community of 500 plus. So our programme focuses on 3 core elements: our mental health, training and employment. We have an in-house psychologist who offers one-to-one counselling and hosts our monthly mental health and stress management seminars. Our training programme was created by the University College of Estate Management, following research with our veterans and our employers as to what would make our candidates more site and employment ready. Thus, 5 modules were created: Intro to Construction, Project Manager, Site Manager, Building Surveyor and Quantity Surveyor. And then our employment programme, it incorporates our wraparound support service from cradle to grave, including our mentoring and our work placements, both of which are a conduit to employment. And then we have our virtual career chats featuring 2 of our veteran employers, our popular face-to-face insight days, and then of course we are working directly with our employers to identify suitable job opportunities with diversity, inclusion and equality existing in all we do. In fact, just a few weeks ago we supported a double amputee who wanted to be a plant operator, and the appetite from our employers really was immense. So we spend a great deal of time getting to know our candidates, and this is how we best support them, and we really do lead by the heart.
Thank you, Caroline. Passion and dogged determination as always shines through.
Caroline, thank you. Just give me a feel for the rate of demand. I mean, are people desperate for the folks you're turning out? Give me a feel for the level of demand.
So we have about 1,500 candidates that sign up a year. And that sits between the veteran pool who are available straight away and service leavers who have about 18 months before they're out. Every single one of our candidates seeks employment. And I think what we're most proud of is 90% of all our candidates over 11 years are still in the construction industry. So this isn't bums on seats. What makes BuildForce so exceptional and award-winning is this bespoke program that we offer for each of the candidates. And it's about a future career. Industry does not bode well for people coming in and leaving quickly. So what we've had to do is build long-term relationships with our employers, understand their culture and their needs, and to really work with them to placing individuals for long-term sustainable second careers. So if a candidate comes to us and wants an interim short-term role, that's not what we do. We are not a recruiter. This is about careers. Yep. Okay, and you'll hear more about that. I think probably what we have now seen, as we've just mentioned, is our employers are now in a place where they're doing this really formal, structured onboarding program and management route for the BuildForce veterans. They are now heavily invested in this program, and Jacobs, Vistry, Amy and Mace are a few to name, with Highways England and BBV in the throes. So you may have crossed paths with notable veterans, Roger Morton, Tim Brent and Richard Castell. And if I could ask them to quickly introduce themselves and give an insight into their own transition and what life is now like in senior roles for them in industry. I'll start off with Roger.
Good morning, Minister. Apologies, my camera is challenging me at the moment. I left the Royal Engineers 5 years ago following a 25-year career, transitioned into Bovis Homes, who created a role to enable me to lead a behavioural change programme. Bovis Homes acquired the 2/3 of the Galliford Tribe group to form Vistry Group 2 years ago, and I'm now the Group Change Director. I'm the Armed Forces Champion for the business, and I led the progression to the Gold Award in 2019. I've been elected to the RS Gold Award Association to be a member of its steering group, and I also provide support to the South East RFCA, reflecting our head office location and their footprint. We have about 20 mentors for BuildForce. My transition was to start work at Bovis on the first day of my terminal leave. The company was superb at welcoming me, helping me develop my skills that I needed to excel and harnessing the skills and experience I brought from a varied military career. Its approach to veterans, to reserves and to the Armed Forces family in the widest sense is outstanding and reflects a genuine respect for the Armed Forces and the desire to harness the skills that community provides and to support them.
Thank you, Roger. To Tim Brent.
Thank you, Angela. Good morning, all, and Minister. Tim Brent, I, a long time ago when rifles were long, was a regular soldier, and since then have occupied a number of reserve roles and continue to do that currently in the Staff Corps within 77 Brigade. I'm Logistics Director for Jacobs, UK, and I also co-chair our VetNet, as we call it, as part of a wider global organisation. And I'm a member of the Employees Engagement Committee in the Greater London Reserve Forces and Cadet Association. For many years, I have been an advocate of the skill sets that the military bring to our industry, most definitely. And it's really heartening to see how it has changed from the black and white scape that I left into the colour scape that it is now. And to answer your question, Minister, from earlier, we have a dedicated role. We've got Rob Kelly online with us here within our organisation, whose sole focus is recruiting in from the military. We recognise the skill sets massively, and again, there's real competition for those people. We have to sell our wares, probably more so than the people have to sell their wares, and that's as it should be. Most definitely, but it's a really competitive space out there. So I'm really pleased to support BuildForce and other entities, and I bore the pants off everybody I can ever intend to meet in saying never underestimate the skill sets that the military person can bring to your team. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. And Richard Castell.
Good morning, Minister. My name is Richard Castell. I'm the Operations Relationship Manager for AMI. And more importantly for this call, I'm the point of contact for engagement with BuildForce. I served 33 years in the Army and left some 11 years ago. And I've got to say my own experience of transition was that day one ID card handed in, almost like a shock of capture. And it took me several years to find out what I eventually wanted to do. And that was about 6 years later. Every role I had since leaving the Army was through networking. And when I was introduced to BuildForce, I have to say, what a fantastic idea. And I wish it had been around at the time that I left. In AMI, we do like to support this as much as we can. We have a group of around 25 mentors across all business units. We recruit quite readily. And just as an example, last week we had an infantry corporal who's just started as a delivery manager at our site at Wellington Barracks in London, and are doing already a cracking job. So I think this initiative has been fantastic. I think it's got some great potential to go forward, and certainly personally and from an AMI point of view, I know we will do everything we can to support it.
Thank you, Richard and Roger and Tim. So with regards to the military programmes that we were speaking about, the extent our employers are now investing to support the BuildForce veterans, if I could ask Michaela Dodd and Chris Gardner from Mace, who could share more about the Mace military programme. And with them, they've got Kay Stevenson and Rebecca Fisher, who are examples of veterans who've benefited from this. Hi, Michaela.
Good morning all, and thank you very much for including us on this call. I'll keep it brief. Mace have currently got about 100 employees with background, and last year alone we employed 40. Our target for this year is 80, and we are hugely reliant on Caroline and her team, the work that they do. And one of the things that we've noticed as a gap is that technical understanding when people land. The early engagement that we've had with people has helped us to direct them, and something Caroline works hard to do is to direct people to the right type of qualifications and courses that are relevant in the industry. And I think there's a lot more that can be done there. And one of the things that we've done is put together a training program that we feel will help people from that day one through to being truly job ready. And it is about their onboarding to the business, but more about their technical breadth of their technical knowledge. We sit once a month for a CV review board, so we have all our military networks sit and present the CVs to help the business understand what that talent pool can do for the business. And sitting behind that, we are, in our future state, going to offer the training and support in their first 12 months within Mace, and get them to commit to taking a certain number. So that's our utopia. They will say at the beginning of the year, we will take 8 people here, 4 people there, and then we can recruit to match that need. So I'm going to hand over to Chris because he can tell you a little bit more about the mechanics of the training programme.
Hello, Minister. Thank you very much for taking the time to listen to us. Christopher Gardner at Mace. I left the Army as an infantry captain, served 5 years and landed at Mace just over a year ago. We've created the Mace military programme born out of my experience of trying to join the industry. And Minister, where you said that the people from the military have an excellent skill set, I found there was a big disconnect between the soft skills that we could offer and the hard technical skills, which actually leads companies to be hesitant to offer roles. I struggled to find a role which matched my salary and grade expectations, understandably so. And so the point that we're creating this is to try and fill in that technical gap. And Minister, there's the NI savings contribution. The way we're using that is we found that the savings that companies were going to make on their salaries wasn't necessarily enough to encourage people to join. However, we're using that to pay for this military program. And so that's how Mace is able to capitalise on that very generous paper that's gone through. So the idea is to identify where the technical skills gap lie in joining the industry, whether it's about contracts, whether it's about the sort of technical offerings there, and then put people on a fast crash course so that they can then come in at the grade and pay that they would anticipate doing so, therefore complementing the technical and the soft skills that they bring to the industry. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Now, as the speakers were just discussing their part there, Minister, I'm looking at the dissipated snowman in my back garden from the recent weekend's flurry. And a theme of winter probably very much symbolises our journey over the years. We were first in this space. So we snowploughed our way as we heightened industry's awareness of the military talent. So we battled the prejudices and the misinformed. We then gritted our way through. So we were creating these safe pathways for our veterans to come into these trusted and respected employers to start their new long-term careers in construction. So it has been a journey, and I feel that we are coming out to the other side. But what I'd like to do now is just pass over to you, Minister, to hear more about the UK being the best country in the world as a veteran, and your role as part of that.
Well, Angela, thank you very much. Those insights were really fascinating. And I'd be keen to hear more, actually, because I think what we are trying to do is to match our rhetorical statements with tangible difference veterans. So, for example, we are offering a guaranteed job interview in the civil service for veterans. We are starting a national insurance contribution holiday for employers employing service leavers. And of course, we've done things like the Veterans Rail Card. So my question back to you is, what else could we usefully be doing to bring practical, tangible assistance? Not necessarily advantage, because we don't, it's still supposed to be a level playing field, but what else might we be doing but focused? And clearly, there's a lot of it is about communications reassurance to employers, who I think are increasingly enthusiastic about employing veterans. But in terms of the practicalities, what else do you think we should be doing?
For example, when you complete your JOTAC Captain's Warfare course, as was, you gain ILM level 5, I think it is. And that's where I believe the military is working hard to try and gain that civilian accreditation. However, every interview I went to, nobody understood what half the qualifications I had were. The ones I got from Catrick as an instructor, all those things. However, the one thing they did recognise was the APM PMQ. Now, I know that's industry specific, but Minister, I think there needs to be two things. There needs to be, one, an understanding of what industry wants and what's actually recognised out there as professional qualifications and what the demand is. But secondly, there needs to be a push from the armed forces as to what some of these qualifications are and what they recognise and the value they represent. I think potentially there might be a risk that we are wasting investment and time by awarding accreditation, which isn't necessarily the best recognised.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, we hear that, and Jessie Owen is online. She's the director of the Office of Veterans Affairs, and I think we are absolutely focused on that with regard to the refresh of our transition provision. Because we will rebid the career transition partnership, but I think it's a very valid point, Chris, and we are entirely focused on that.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Minister. Roger, do you have a question?
Two points, if I may, Minister. One is civilian work attachments. We work very hard with BuildForce to give people the opportunity to come to our sites and see what life's really like. It's a great way to look at each other, for us to give the veteran the opportunity to see what life on site is really like, or in the construction industry, but also for them to judge us as well. I did one of those myself before I left. Hugely valuable. And I think we should be encouraging that. The other thing is, as a commanding officer, I remember soldiers and officers coming in and telling me they were going to leave and me trying to advise them. I remember doing the same as an officer commanding. And we have resettlement officers, generally a late entry officer in the army, doing that. The one thing the vast majority of those people have never do is leave the armed services. We need to educate our commanders and those we employ in the military on what life on the other side is like, because I would argue that I was not an expert on that as a commanding officer or as an AC.
That's a good point, and we are very much focused on that.
Okay, thank you, Roger. Thank you, Minister. Now, I'd like to thank our employers and our veterans for your questions and for your time. With an incredibly talented and capable team, combined with the exceptional talent of the military and the extraordinary sector of construction, we are in a very privileged space to do our bit and support all those that we can. We do try to allow our veterans to replicate their successful career, to create a new one in construction. And although for me, we've got unrelatable titles and ranks and units and corps and hierarchy, there are in fact incredible alignments and skill sets and striking parallels between the two sectors. And I think we saw that compounded with the armed forces collaborating with industry on the Nightingale Hospital, stent centres and vaccine facilities recently. So we are one of the Armed Forces champions across DWP. We have our gold awards from the Armed Forces Covenant, and we are the proud military partners for so many employers and industry, and on engineering masterpieces like HS2, national highways and smart motorways. But just as importantly, we are the go-to partner for our veterans who trust us in supporting them fulfil their dreams. So Minister, we're delighted that you could join us today, and thank you for asking us.
Well, Angela, I reiterate my thanks that I said at the start, and it's absolutely terrific. And I would love to meet some of you in person soon, and keep up the brilliant work. And thanks for your time today.
Thank you.